My poem is Somewhere I Have Never Traveled, Gladly Beyond by E. E. Cummings. What is a modernist writer or modernism? In modernism writing, authors emphasize the role of language and how much of an important aspect it is. Modernism is based on discoveries in math and science, some of the most common being physics and sociology. Modernists are focused on looking at life through new subject matter. Each writing is very personalized based on the author's new outlook on life. Modernism talks about the unconscious being motivation, which means a deeper connection with oneself, and it brings out new ideas and new outlooks. Modernism breaks down how we think and why we think by looking for patterns in the community, comparing them, and then making sense of them. And finally, it gives less reference to the past and more on living in the moment, ultimately breaking away from the chronological order of other stories. A little about E. E. Cummings. He was a modernist writer. His most famous poems have three categories: praise, love, and satirical, which include a lot of irony. The poem I Studied falls into the love category. His poems typically have a lot of intensity and a lot of hidden meanings. And as an author, he never had a breakthrough poem, but he was very hardworking and he stayed consistent in his writing patterns. The very beginning of the poem expresses an unconditional love of the speaker for a womanly figure. She is like a mystery to him, and you can tell in the second line when he says, "Your eyes have their silence." My source is E. E. Cummings. From the first line, I can tell that he is happy to get to know this woman. Then the speaker switches the things that cannot be described on the surface and says, "her most frail gestures," and it shows how her gestures engulf him and make him happy and brings out emotion. My source is also E. E. Cummings. In stanza 2, the petals represent love and the springtime represents the woman. Spring is the season in which everything starts to bloom. In this case, it is the man opening up like petals and allowing himself to love unconditionally. My source is Robert Johnson. In the third stanza, the speaker of the story is taking a big risk. He expresses feelings and he is waiting for hers in return by saying, "Or if you wish to close me, I and my life will shut very beautifully, suddenly." My source is E. E. Cummings. He is putting himself on the line because of his unconditional love. The snow mentioned is almost opposite of spring, where everything is cold and dies, just like it would be if the woman rejected his love. My source is E. E. Cummings. In the fourth stanza, the line, "Nothing which we are to perceive in the world equals the power of your intense fragility," shows that nothing in the world can affect the speaker more than the compelling power of this woman. He uses the word forever, saying that her love is timeless, in a world that is not comprehensible. So in this stanza, he is in awe. My source is E. E. Cummings. In the fifth stanza, he is admirational and giving praise to her, saying he can't describe what is so incredible about this woman, but not even the most common things, such as the little rose or the fall of the rain, can compare to the love he has for this woman and the effect she has on him. My source is E. E. Cummings. These are my full citations for the authors mentioned in stanzas 1 through 5. How is this writing modernism? This writing applies to modernism because the speaker is focused on looking at the world through a new subject matter, which is love. Also, the author emphasizes the role of language. There are not many punctuation marks, commas, or emotions expressed with this poem because the power comes from the language and the metaphors. The author really wants the reader to focus on what the words are saying. Next, the speaker uses his unconscious as a sense of motivation. He clearly states that he doesn't quite understand why he loves this woman, but something inside him does, and it only makes him want to pursue her more. And finally, the poem is not set in chronological time. It is as if time has stopped and is almost frozen in the moment as he describes his unconditional love that he has for this woman.